Hey guys, I'm Yuta. So today I'm with Greg from Life Where I'm From and Jay from NihonJack. And they are raising their kids in Japan, so I will be asking questions about that.
I remember really late at night, I would get online and I would look for certain places, and then I would look at the schools that were in the area. Then I would call the school and ask to talk to the principal. And then I would get a sense of, what could they possibly do for my kids who didn't, I let them know that they didn't really speak Japanese. Would they be accepting? Would there be any programs for them? For example, would there be something like a tutor who could come? We found that there are some places that have a Japanese as a second language program in Tokyo. There are about 5 or 6 different schools that do that. Unfortunately, we couldn't find an apartment that was near to any of those places that really worked out. And then at the school that Jack ended up going to, the principal was very, very welcoming. Yeah, no problem. This is an international world that we live in, and we would love to have somebody like Jack come and learn with us. So it really worked out well.
Ours was quite a simple choice because we already had family members going to the school, and we lived by the family members. So there wasn't really any option or investigating. We just knew the school we were going to go to.
Just even the basics of how things run from day to day. For example, at least at the schools that we've been to in the United States, there was a kind of a set schedule, and on a particular day what time you're going to come home, and it's kind of the same from week to week. But here it can be quite variable day to day, and you have to look at your kind of the school schedule, the renrakucho, maybe the food. So kyushoku, essentially everyone eats the same thing. It's very important. In fact, I had many discussions with the teachers over my kids not trying everything at times. So one time, this is just like an anecdotal story. The teachers are so concerned about my kids and really want them to do well. One thing is that they were worried that if they didn't eat kyushoku like all of the other kids, that then the other kids might perceive my kids as being selfish. And this was with my daughter, and she's actually pretty good about eating things. Jackson's much pickier. But, so we were talking on the phone, and she's like, well, your daughter's not trying everything. And I was trying to explain, well, she's got some food allergies, and it's a new country, and she's dealing with a lot of things. And in my head, I'm just thinking, the food seems like the least of my worries, and what she is or isn't eating at school doesn't matter too much to me. And so I said, well, I'll let my daughter know that you're worried about it. But what should I tell her about why it's important to try everything or eat everything? And then she said, well, it's kind of like a life lesson. And if you have a friend or a person who's in your class that you don't like, it's not like you try it one time and just say, I don't like that person. You have to try again, and you'll try to get along with that person even though they're not like somebody that you would naturally get along with. And she said that kyushoku is the same way. When you try the food, even though you may not like it, eventually you may come to like it, and it's something that's healthy, and it gives you this approach to life that's good. And I was like, okay. So then I talked to my daughter about it, and actually she ended up doing fine and loves kyushoku now. So
One of the differences, I think, was in the parent involvement. In Canada, I felt that if you had the free time, you could volunteer for the PTA, which is the Parent Teachers Association. But in Japan, I felt like there was a really big push to have the parents. And usually it's the female, parent who gets kind of stuck with that responsibility. And even if they're a working part-time job or a full-time job, they still have that pressure to do everything, for their kids within the school system. At least in our school, you have to volunteer for the PTA at least a few times in the school term between grade 1 and grade 6. It's a lot more involvement, but in some other ways, because everybody has to be involved, you get to know people more, you get to make sure you know what's going on with the school. So there's the pro and con.
For example, I go to the parent teacher meetings as well, and there are some Every once in a while, one of the dads is there, but in general, it's the moms who are there, and I'm usually there with a big group of women and then me. So it's kind of interesting. Sometimes my wife goes too, but. So I think people are really friendly. They go out of their way to come and say hi. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's any different than the United States, though, because people are often very friendly and go out of their way to say hello. And
Well, I'm naturally a very shy person. I don't normally go up to people to talk to them if I don't know them. I'll just kind of sit in the corner on the side, and if somebody comes up to me, I'm no problem talking, but otherwise I don't go approach people. So I found in Canada with the schools, I'd hardly talk to any parents just because I'm that personality, and people would generally, I don't know, just leave me alone, you know.
You wanted to be left alone.
I'm happy with that, right? It's fine.
I can understand that.
But in Japan, most people do leave me alone, but I found a lot more people would, come up and just like, hi and konnichiwa, and sometimes it's not that much to talk about. But everybody who has approached me has been very friendly, and I've never felt any, negative feelings about it. So everybody seemed very welcoming.
What's interesting is the kids will help each other to follow rules. One of the things that my daughter was really upset about was that people would often be telling her, like, oh, you can't do this, or you have to do it. For example, this is just a small example, but there's a particular way of sitting while you're waiting for somebody else when you're doing a sports activity. And apparently every Japanese person knows this particular style of sitting, and it has a name. It's taiku zuwari, which is yeah, exactly.
Aiko is doing that as well.
And so you have to sit like this for sometimes hours at a time, and it can be quite uncomfortable. But if you put your feet off to the side or something, it's apparently not acceptable. So people will they would tell her, no, you can't sit like that. And she would come home very upset because, she's like, I was sitting this way while I was waiting for the other kids who were swimming, and people would get mad at me if I wasn't sitting that way. It was really stressful. And I guess eventually she just got used to it because she stopped. Actually, it was funny because Jackson's like, stop complaining. This is Japan. You just have to do what everyone else does.
But I found that very interesting part about moving from Canada to Japan and the school system, because there's a lot of unwritten rules about your behavior and how you act. And since Shin, he moved when he was 3 years old to Japan, he started off in the daycare system, Hoikuens. And even at Hoikuen level, they start training them in how to act and how to do certain things. And so by the time you get into grade 1 school, you already have a lot of this information that you should know. So when Aiko first came in grade 1, she came at the very end of grade 1, there were certain things, like she might stand up at the wrong time or might not sit a certain way or do certain things that every kid knows.
Yeah.
So it's tough when everybody knows these unwritten rules and you don't. But then, have you ever seen just the kids let loose and they're just crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Japanese kids can go really crazy. But I think when sometimes you see stuff on video online, oh wow, like Japanese kids are so behaved and they have all these manners and whatnot. And they do in certain situations, right? So I guess when they have that kind of that group pressure or that mentality, and they can definitely fall in line and do what they need to do, and everybody understands their role, right? But when they're allowed to just do whatever they want, like say in recess time or just some free time, they can definitely get wild too.
Yeah, definitely both.
Oh, kids are kids.
I'm not too sure. So in our school, there are other kids who are not pure Japanese, right? They might be half kids, but they all spoke Japanese relatively well, or actually native level. So there was already examples of other kids like that. And Aiko and Shin, they both look like more Japanese than they do Western. So they all kind of blend in somewhat.
I think Jack doesn't care, but my daughter probably cares a little bit about sticking out.
I wonder if it's also like a male-female thing a little bit too. Because, Shin couldn't care less, right? And I don't know, it seems like Shin has a closer personality to Jack, and then Aiko has a closer personality to Alicia, right? Where they're like, Aiko's very aware of what people are thinking about her, and she's always trying to make sure she, I don't know, fits in, right?
Yeah.
Whereas she could care less.
Yeah, I think Jack's somewhere in the middle. But when it comes to making mistakes with language, my daughter really seemed to care a lot because she didn't want to sound dumb. Whereas Jackson, he doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to that.
Alright, so thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this is helpful. And check out their channels as well.
Yeah, make sure to check out all of Yuta's other videos because he has tons of tips on what life is like in Japan, living here, working here, speaking Japanese, kanji, who can do it, who can't, all kinds of different things.
Thanks very much for watching, guys.
Okay, thanks, cheers. Hey guys, it's Yuta again. Well, if you want to send your kids to Japanese school, it's better to speak Japanese. So if you want to learn Japanese with me, you should click the link, choose your level, and subscribe to my list, Japanese with Yuta. Also, you can support me on Patreon, so click the link and go to my Patreon page. Alright, see you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.